Welcome to the Mom to Mom podcast.
Today, we are talking about something that constantly gets brought up on consultations with clients, sliding into our DMs. It is a big topic, and it is childbirth education classes.
And if you're thinking, do I need to take one? Which course do I need to take? Why do they all kind of sound the same? You are not alone. You are listening to the Mom to Mom podcast, hosted by Stephanie Sinclair and Nikki Zwaber, partners and lead doulas here at How to Mom.
We're moms, we're professionals, and we're here to make motherhood feel a little less heavy and far more supported.
How to Mom is a community built for real life. From pregnancy and birth to postpartum and beyond, we support families through education, connection, and care. Our team of birth and postpartum doulas work with families every day while also sharing stories on our podcast and our blog to curate trusted resources for moms in the Twin Cities and beyond.
On this podcast, we talk about the real stuff, the stories that stay with you, the questions you're already asking, and the moments that feel hard, hopeful, and everything in between.
Absolutely. You will hear honest conversations, expert insight, lived experiences, and reminders that you are not doing this alone.
This is Mom to Mom. We're so glad you're here. And now, on to today's episode. In this episode, we are going to walk through what childbirth education really is, why it can feel so confusing to some people, the difference and different types of classes that we have out there, and how to choose something that actually supports your birth, not everyone else's idea of birth.
Absolutely. This is about clarity, confidence, and feeling prepared without feeling overwhelmed. And we truly think that taking a childbirth education course to lay the foundation is vital. And so let's kind of start with the first question or number one thing that comes into the DMs. Like, why is it so confusing to pick a childbirth education course? Or if I feel confused by it, does that mean I don't need to take one?
I think the initial issue is there are just a million out there. There's classes you can take at your hospital if you're birthing at a hospital that your providers are recommending.
Yep.
There's natural classes, which again means very different things to very different people.
Yeah.
There's condensed or crash courses that touch just a little bit on every single topic, but can potentially leave you feeling even more confused or not sure what you learned.
The express version.
Express version for sure. Insurance companies are now starting to offer them, which I've heard really good things about, but also that they're not as in depth or they're not covering those topics that you're really needing answers to. And so we just want everyone to feel really confident in choosing from all of the millions that are out there. So we're going to kind of break it down.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, a really great place to start is like, who's teaching the course, right? Like, what's the intention behind it? Or are they familiar with birth?
I also think to add to that, most of the time, everyone is confident that their class is the best class.
Of course. You'll hear that here.
Well, but it's actually true here.
Obviously. And I remember when I was pregnant with Mackenzie, so 13 years ago, we took a course through a hospital, and I'm sure it was our provider who had recommended it. And it was one day, which was like so long. So much information in one setting. Like for me, I can't even imagine how Brian felt. He was probably like, I walked away with like 2 things.
Oh, for sure. For sure.
It's like a super sterile environment because you're at the hospital. So it's like super white, bright lights. Everybody's sitting, everybody's awkward. No one's really talking to each other. And to be completely honest, I'm sure it was like an administrator that taught it. So I don't even know if it was necessarily somebody who specialized in labor and delivery or if it was an RN. I'm not quite sure, but it was just very like informational base of like, let's just like get a bunch of information out to say that we did. And it also, I felt like, was super focused on interventions because it was hosted by a hospital.
Oh, yeah, I can completely empathize and sympathize with that. We did a similar course as well, but I think that those can also be really helpful to certain people. But I think even digging a little deeper of, if I pick the wrong class, right? Like you went to that class with Brian.
Yeah.
There are potentially some issues that can come up with you, like, oh, did I pick the wrong class? Like, what did we learn here? Why did we spend our whole Saturday here and I didn't feel walking away with value to what I'm looking for out of my birth? Yeah. And so I think reframing it today to kind of dig a little deeper into childbirth ed, it shouldn't be a checklist, and it shouldn't be something that you just do and you're getting this fire hose of information and then you're supposed to sort it out on your own, right? And it's not ever, no matter what type of course you decide to take, it is never a guarantee of an outcome that you're looking for.
Absolutely.
We're interrupting this episode to ask, are you pregnant and drowning in information?
Hospital birth, home birth, epidural, no epidural, everyone has an opinion, but yours is the one that truly matters.
That's why How to Mom created our childbirth education course.
This isn't about telling you what to choose. It's about giving you the knowledge to make decisions that feel right for you.
Led by experienced professionals, our class covers the full picture: labor, birth, comfort measures, partner support, and postpartum, without judgment, pressure, or fear.
If you want to feel informed, confident, and supported heading into your birth, this class is for you. And remember, if you're a How to Mom doula client, make sure to enter your discount code at checkout.
Head to howtomom.com to learn more information about our courses, because informed moms feel different walking into birth. And now back to the episode.
And I think a little bit, just to give like some examples of what does that mean? Like, what are we talking about? For example, if you take a course that focuses just on unmedicated birth, right? So it's very heavily focused on comfort measures, breathing techniques, things like that. Sometimes even like hypnosis, right? There's not a lot of information regarding like, what if something goes sideways,
right?
And all of a sudden I need to be induced, or there's certain interventions and all of a sudden you're like, I have no idea what they're talking about. I've never even heard of this intervention.
Right.
Or on the flip side, you take a hospital setting birth and you're like, how do I cope through a contraction?
Yeah, I agree. And I think, next sort of topic for us should be what we believe at How to Mom that childbirth education is meant to do.
Yep.
And so we believe education is meant to be supportive and not to be pressured, right?
Yep.
So I think it's a great pivot for us to kind of talk about what childbirth education is meant to do and to be.
Yeah. And I think in simple terms, like it's just the start. Like it's laying the foundation, right? It's helping you be more familiar with different terms. It's helping you understand what childbirth can look like, can like the stages. It just really sets this great foundation so that you and your team, or you and your significant other, or even you and your provider can then dig deeper. Right. So it's just laying this foundation so that more work essentially can be done. And so, yeah, it's not something to just check off the list. It should be in a manner where you can really retain some good information and then build off of it.
Right. And I think to even simplify it more, right, we're getting education to prepare our body.
Yeah.
So like you said, whatever type of birth that you are planning to have or desire to have, we're preparing your body.
Yeah.
So your education course should be covering all types of different opportunities to prepare your body.
Yeah.
Preparing your mind. We often talk about with everyone here at How to Mom that this is a mental strength game.
Mm-hmm.
This is planning for a marathon.
Yeah.
And when you're planning for a marathon, yes, you are physically training, but your body pretty much knows what's going to happen during that marathon. But mentally getting over those humps and getting over those really tough, hard parts. So again, your childbirth education course should be covering
all of that.
It's the mental piece. And then also, really important, if not most important, what's happening to your nervous system,
Yeah,
right? And
absolutely.
so it should be kind of connecting the dots
Yeah.
for you as the birthing person, but then also making it very clear to your support team of what you're experiencing and how support looks like based on connecting all these dots of mental and physical.
Yeah. I know it's always cliche, but I often say, like, your body can achieve what your mind believes. Like, your
Absolutely.
body's going to do the work. It's just whether or not we can sustain that, we can believe that, and that we're mentally and emotionally prepared for that journey. And so it really should be all encompassing. And like you said, with like connecting the dots, if we again leave any course and we're like, okay, I know interventions, but I don't know how to cope with contractions, all of it's going to go out the window.
Right.
But rather, if you have a course that really breaks down, here's some terminology, but more importantly, like, here are the options that might not be presented to you, but that are available to you. Like, that I think is a missing piece in a lot of settings and potentially in a lot of courses, is that it shouldn't be like, here's how birth always goes,
Right.
or here's what to expect, because we all know birth is unpredictable, but we also can go in knowing what options are available, what options align with our values and like how we envision this experience. And then we are able to deal with some twists and turns with still knowing what's important to us. And so it's great to have all of those pieces, not as here's how to do it, but like, here are all of the options. Because we often say as doulas, there's always options.
Right. And a good course will teach you understanding versus controlling, because there are just so many variables when it comes to birth and labor and pregnancy and beyond. And so, like steps, like you just said, I mean, the understanding of terms, the understanding of options,
Yeah.
right? Controlling the options, and certainly not trying to control the outcome with any type of education that's sold as a control, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it would be important to kind of just talk about the different types of childbirth education courses and how they're presented. So obviously we've already mentioned, like hospital settings, but essentially there's options in terms of like in-person courses. You can go and physically meet other couples and physically meet your instructor with or without a significant other. There's also really great options of virtual courses where it's still live, but that it's, from the comfort of your own home, or on demand recorded, like pre-recorded courses that you could have access to forever. But then also there's different types, meaning there's hypnobabies, which is like a hypnosis training. There's the Bradley method. There's Lamaze. I know that can feel really overwhelming. I've even had clients, they're like, okay, I'm going to take Lamaze, I'm going to take Bradley. We don't need to take all of the courses. We need to understand what these different like methods and types are, and then decide like, what am I looking for out of a course, and do one of these different methods or types kind of align with what I'm looking for. If you were pregnant today, what would you desire? Would you desire in person? Would you desire virtual or on demand? Like, obviously now since COVID, we're in a whole different kind of lifestyle than when you and I were having kids. I don't even think that was an option. It was only in person.
Yes, I believe that's all I had options for was in person. I mean, it's hard. Okay, so that's a great question. Today, Nikki, having two teenage people in my home, if I found out I was pregnant today, I would absolutely need to do the on-demand courses.
Yeah.
Because
the convenience.
The fact that, I mean, it's a great question, because I'm a what you would call seasoned parent since I have two kiddos. But I do think the great part of the on-demand course is that I feel confident about certain things, but there's more time that I want to spend on other parts of certain areas, right? And so to be able to compartmentalize and make that fit into my schedule and educate myself that way, I think is a huge draw. So personally, I would love to do on demand or online courses for sure.
I think that's a really good point, and just kind of our society, everything's very like fast and busy. And even though when you get pregnant, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to meet my baby in for 10 months. Like it does go relatively quickly.
Yeah.
I value that like you can only retain so much information at once.
Yes.
So like you can go to a full day course, you can go to an express class, and maybe you'll be able to walk away with like some material like a workbook. But I just can only retain so much information in one setting, which is why as doulas, we meet multiple times with our clients. We have to like break it down. Even with everything that we talk about with our clients in different settings, there still are some things, right? That clients are like, oh, I totally forgot we talked about that, because it's a lot of information to learn. So, what I really value if I were pregnant today and what I would look for is being able to have that course material for a lifetime.
Absolutely.
Or even for 10 months or a couple of years, if I were to have multiple, babies within a couple of years, and, say it was my second, I could go back and be like, yep, nope, I understand the stages of labor, but I struggled with coping techniques or like keeping my body like really soft and,
Right.
and leaning into movement. Well, then I would go back and take that module a couple more times or refer to it.
Absolutely.
So I do really appreciate and like that as an option now, like post COVID, because now these people are able to have courses that they can just like constantly refer back to, or even just breaking it down where it's you're only taking or like watching 2 modules a week.
Right.
Or like date night.
Well, yeah, date nights look a little different when you're expecting, which is awesome. That's a fun little shift in season to be in. But yeah, like watching in your jammies, if you're a commuter, throwing it in your ears, podcast style, right? I think there's just so many ways to digest that information that you don't have to be even sitting in front of your laptop, computer, even watching on your phone. Like there's just so many different ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's helpful. I know that you took the Bradley method, right?
I
with
did.
one of your kiddos.
I did.
Do you want, because I took the hospital setting, which was very information heavy, intervention heavy, epidural heavy, and no coping techniques. Do you want to speak to the Bradley method or just kind of, because I do feel like the Bradley method was much more in alignment with an unmedicated birth.
Yes, I would say that's true. My doula and I actually did it together.
Oh, okay.
And so we learned a few things just about me together in that way, like what felt great, what I was hoping for. So yeah, I do think it was far more physiologically.
Yeah.
My hospital course, similar to yours, was a lot about just the facility.
Yeah.
About the
where to park.
Yes, which I love that.
Yeah.
The Bradley method gave me more of the information that I was looking for to incorporate, hoping to incorporate into my birth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different options out there, and this podcast is definitely meant to kind of help understand the different methods, the different options. But of course, continue to reach out to us if you're curious, if you're like, I want to know more about a certain type of childbirth course or the Lamaze course. I always laugh because I feel like most people think of it as like just the like breathing technique, that the breath work that like my mom learned, like the
or every movie we've ever watched in our entire life.
Yes. Yes. Which I would say it definitely covers more than that.
Yes, it does.
Most people think of that when they hear the Lamaze.
Oh, yeah. I think that that's a pretty fair assessment, actually.
So I do want to, just before we move on, I do think it's important to really understand who is teaching your course.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because I want every single one of you to hear advice, to hear experiences, to hear techniques, to hear options from somebody who attends birth.
Real birth should be the number one on your list when you are looking for courses.
Because they are the ones who will be able to speak to the updated evidence-based information in terms of options, in terms of what are we seeing, right? Because things are always changing. For example, 10 years ago when I started, postpartum Pitocin was not standard protocol.
No, it was not.
They're not in the rooms where people are giving birth they might have the information, but they're not going to have the hands-on experienced information that somebody who's either, an RN, an OB, a midwife, a doula, they're not going to have that same type of information. Like you said, it's going to be much more administrative.
Agreed.
Yeah.
100%.
So I think that would be a great place to start after you decide, do you want in person? Do you want virtual? Do you want on demand? And then I would go to like, who would I want teaching me
Right.
about birth?
Right. And I think that's a great point is there's a fit for everyone. No decision is the wrong decision. It's whatever makes the most sense for you in your birth.
Absolutely. So maybe to kind of wrap up, let's talk about just some simple like green flags and red flags when trying to choose a course, just to like make it more simple for those who are listening. So we'll start with kind of like the green flags, like some positive things to look for. I already mentioned briefly, but like evidence-based information and supporting resources to that evidence that they are referring to.
Correct.
And that is very different than a fear-based method.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
We also value research and data here at How to Mom in general. Anyone who's worked with me personally, if you're one of my clients and you're listening, that's one of the first things that I tell you is that's very important to me.
Yeah.
Things are changing fast, like you said. And so we're trying to keep ahead of it. We're trying to keep on top of it. And so I think having real life evidence, supportive documentation, not from 1965, right? Like something that's relevant and real based on how medicine is growing and how technology and science continues to shift. That makes a massive difference in your experience, and you should have access to that information.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, I want you all to just think that during your preparation of your birth, it is a lot easier to kind of be in this right state of mind of like, nope, like if they come at me and tell me that I'm having a big baby, like there is no chance I'm going to induce, right? Like I know that's not evidence-based. My doula has reassured me that that's not evidence-based. But then you go to that visit and you meet with your provider, and there are fear tactics that are used and some manipulation that is introduced. And it's really easy, if you don't have that evidence to rely on, to be confident in the decision that feels best for you, whatever that decision is. And it's the evidence that we provide, not only in our course, but to our clients, that really help our students and our clients stay focused on what is real.
Right.
And not what was just said in a 10-minute meeting with their doctor.
Right. Right.
And so evidence-based information is incredibly important, and is a really great green flag when you hear that in a course description. Another really great green flag that we want you to look for is that a course is inclusive of all different types of birth. Not only because everyone has the right to choose how they birth their baby, but also because sometimes plans change.
Yes, they do.
We can prepare for birth, but we can't predict it. And so if we only focus on one type of birth for our education, and then something goes differently than what we anticipate, are we going to feel prepared?
Right. Prepared and
empowered.
And you may not remember every single last detail of every little bit, but with your birth team, right, that's where the birth team comes in, is if you are making a left turn and it wasn't part of the plan, you can feel confident that you've talked about it, you've learned about it in some capacity. Someone on your birth team has retained that information to be able to feel like they can say to you in the moment, remember we talked about this and this is what we were going to do if this happened, and then we move forward, right? So it is about having the choice, but really that confidence that you at least touched on options, knowing that it may or may not happen.
Yeah. And I think maybe an extreme example, but just to give an example, if you are somebody who whether or not you're planning and wanting a unmedicated or an epidural birth, and you don't want to even go there and think about a belly birth, a cesarean, because you want to manifest a vaginal birth, as much as we can empathize and will be there every step of the way, sometimes babies need to be born via cesarean. And if you don't cover that scenario or that information, much like what I'm thinking during, my course at the hospital, it's like, okay, if X, Y, or Z happens, you'll be going in for a cesarean. And like, that was it.
Right.
That was the end of the conversation. Right. What I want you to look for is that regardless of the scenario, that you have been given all of the options that are available to you. And that even goes for a birth that happens in the operating room. There are still options. There are still evidence-based information that we want you to know. And so I just think it's important to cover all scenarios and making sure that the course feels very inclusive, really non-judgmental.
Absolutely right. Non-judgmental and kind of covering it all. I think you did a great job.
And then the last two green flags would be practical tools, right? So talked about that with the hospital birth. Lots of great information, but nothing really to help with coping.
Right.
And even if you're planning for an epidural, you don't get that epidural placement the very first contraction.
Correct. Yes.
So coping techniques matter in all scenarios.
Coping techniques matter when you're having a planned cesarean.
Yes.
Not for maybe contractions per se when you have a planned cesarean, but coping matters.
And comfort at the end of pregnancy. Like there's just so many hands-on practical tools that should also be included in your course. And then lastly, before I hand it off to Nikki about all those red flags, we are big here at How to Mom that language matters.
Yes, it does.
It matters so much. And I want you to find a course that helps you build your confidence instead of just like feeling all this pressure, like all this overwhelm, all this pressure. You have to do it one way, a certain way. You better make sure you remember X, Y, and Z, and don't forget this. I want you to feel empowered. I want you to feel educated, and I want you to feel that the people that are in your corner, in your birth space, teaching you childbirth education, that they are there to believe in you and to build your confidence.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's end it with all those red flags.
I like that you saved the red flags for me and my part.
Not intentional.
I mean, I don't know. We're going to talk offline about that. Yeah, red flags. I mean, my goodness, like we had to break it down, but here's our top red flags.
Yeah,
I would say at How to Mom.
Yeah.
We touched on this a little bit, but any course out there that is guaranteeing an outcome, that is a huge red flag.
Yeah.
Again, going back to understanding versus control.
Yep.
There is absolutely, I don't care who you are, I don't care who is teaching this course, there is no scientific evidence out there today that will guarantee you an outcome just by taking their birth course.
Yeah. I mean, your provider.
No.
Nobody can predict how your birth is going to unfold.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Of language used even to promote that course. It's going to be filtered throughout that course.
Oh, absolutely.
So keeping that front and foremost. Another red flag I think would be the one size fits all approach. We kind of talked a little bit about this already, but just sending it home on this topic. There is no wrong way to birth a baby.
Amen.
I will say it louder for the people in the back, right? Any type of birth that you desire or are planning for is the perfect birth for you. Mm-hmm. If we need to take a sharp left turn because things aren't going to the plan that we have in our heads, or medically something needs to change, you need to educate and understand every single turn, and there will be turns.
Yep, absolutely.
You need to understand what those look like, all the way down to I get pretty granular with, if you're my client and we've talked about planning for a vaginal birth, but understanding what a belly birth would look like.
Absolutely.
We talk about details like, this is exactly who's going to come into your room.
Yep.
And this is exactly what they're going to do.
Yep.
The lights are very bright. This is the color of the sheet that's up. This is the smell, right? So I'm talking about there's no manifesting there. Knowledge is empowering. Knowledge melts away the fear.
Yes.
And so if you are looking at a course that isn't, maybe not as granular as the drape smelling like crayons, because it totally does.
Yes, it does.
If you've been in that situation, it smells like crayons. But I mean, I joke, but all of that aside, if you are finding a course that is just specific to one type of birth, I love that for you if that is your journey, but I really encourage you to look and expand so you are, again, building that foundation of knowledge,
for all
of
it.
Information for all of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, because it really, no information leads to fear, and there's nothing more paralyzing than fear.
Absolutely.
Regardless of where that fear is coming from or what that fear is over, it will spread.
Yes, absolutely. And leading into my other red flag is an obsession with a quote unquote perfect birth.
You didn't have an orgasm when you gave birth?
You didn't laugh your baby out?
Sure did. Neither of those things.
Neither of those things happened to me.
And here's the thing. We're not saying that those things don't happen. But here's a little bit of our issue with like social media and just comparison in general.
Yeah.
Like we hear it all the time, but truly comparison is the thief of joy. You cannot walk away from birth comparing it to your friends, comparing it to your sisters, comparing it to anyone. No two births are the same. And when we do that, it makes us question everything. And when we see these births online, sometimes we walk away from watching and going, what's wrong with me? Like, why didn't I have an orgasm while birthing my baby? I mean, I don't think people are asking themselves.
Probably not, but they probably will now.
Have you not ever? No. Truly, that is another extreme. I'm all about extremes today. But contractions feel different for everyone. Everybody holds tension differently. And so this whole idea of like, you're going to get this guaranteed birth, or you're going to feel this way, or real birth is only if you birth this way. Like,
or you can only categorize it as a perfect birth if it went exactly to your birth plan.
Yep.
Or your birth preferences, however you describe that. I think just letting go of this idea of a perfect birth, and certainly paying attention if you're seeing language out there.
So are you ever out of time? Like, is it ever too late to take a course?
Never.
No,
never. Absolutely not. I mean, I think there's one caveat there, right? Okay. I think if you are heading into like maybe your 39th week, right? Like, I don't think that it's completely necessary that you have to bombard yourself with
so much information,
or feeling like you missed a step, or again, like the self-doubt, right? Like, I did it wrong. I should have done this. I should have, could have, would have, right? And so
none of that.
And so no, you can take those courses whenever you want, but also like, it's okay to call on other people if you did just completely miss that boat. So talk to your doula, focus on that with your provider. Talk to your team about where your fears and where your insecurities are, and focus on those. Get really clear.
Yeah, absolutely. Or only watch the modules that like you feel like would be helpful before going in to give birth. But truly at the end of the day, you know yourself best. You know how you retain information. And you decide what aligns and what feels best for you. So If you were unsure of childbirth education courses and options, I hope we have answered most of those questions here today. Um, I think at the end of the day, it's not that you need more information, you just need the right information for you.
Yeah, you need the right fit. You need the right fit for you, your family, your values, your learning style. If you're visual, if you're hands on, you have so many great options out there. So just pick the one that works the best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want help exploring education that fits best for you, that aligns with your values and your learning styles, we have created some amazing resources and classes designed to meet you where you're at. But no, you don't need to know everything. You just need support, clarity, and space to trust yourself.
Thanks for being here with me, Stephanie.
Yes, thanks for being here with me, Nikki. And thanks to all of you for being here with us today and listening. And we hope you have a wonderful day.
We'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening. For show notes, links, and more information, please visit our website at howtomom.com. That's HOW2MOM.com.
And remember, whether you're a mom, a parent, or a caregiver, you are doing great. There's progress over perfection, and we're all just figuring it out together.